Welcome to the webinar about the time location function in Candy. I am Isak van Niekerk from the Cape Town office involved with the testing, training and user support of Candy. Our agenda for today is as follows. First, an introduction of what time location is and where it's useful. Then we'll explain the basics of time location, after which we'll discuss the options available in the production of a time location. We will also discuss some advanced features available like production rates and cycle times. And then we'll demonstrate how to customize and produce time location reports for printouts. And we'll end off with some tips and tricks that can be applied in producing a time location chart. Note, today's presentation is recorded and you will receive a link to download it. There are regular webinars on various Candy topics. And should you not be able to attend a webinar at a given time frame, then please still register for the webinar, as this will entitle you to receive a link to a recorded copy of the webinar. As this webinar is pre-recorded, we will not be able to answer any questions during the webinar. Please email any questions that you might have to your local RIP Candy offices. We will then collate these questions and send the answers to everybody that registered for this webinar via email. When presenting a schedule to management, especially for large projects with hundreds or even thousands of activities spread across many printed pages, the result can often be confusing, or even worse, frustrating. A more effective approach is to provide a clear, one-page overview of the program that highlights the essential information and is easy to understand. Time location charts are a powerful method for summarizing and visually representing project schedules against two axes: time and location, which may be distance, level, or other measures. Known by various names including line of balance, linear scheduling, location-based scheduling, time chainage, mass charts, etc. They are particularly suited to projects with linear or repetitive activities, such as high-rise buildings, roads, pipelines, railways, tunnels, mine shafts, etc. These charts typically display activities in relation to time and distance, or time and quantity. For example, a high-rise project may use floors on the vertical axis and time on the horizontal, while a railway project may plot distance horizontally against time vertically. A key principle in using time location charts effectively is simplicity. Only selected activities should be shown, as overcrowding a chart with detail reduces clarity and increases complexity. The objective is always to make the program clear, accessible, and easy to interpret. Any Candy planning or site plan program can be plotted on a time location, provided the activities can be sensibly given a position on the location scale. This example of the time location was derived from the program shown in bar chart form. We'll use this example to illustrate the main principles of time location. Activities on the time location chart generally fall into three categories. First, a fixed position in bars or straight line, where the activity starts and ends on the same location. The second category is the sloping line, where the activity starts at one location and ends at another location. And the last one is the block, where activities are summarized as a single block with a start location and an end location. Let's now look at these categories on the time location chart. First, here we see the fixed position bars or straight line. Construct the west portal at location 3500. Then we also have the sloping bars, subbase chainage 6800 to chainage 3500. And then we also have the block, which is basically construction of the station at location 5800 to 6200. Let's now look at a practical example. Here we have three activities, each 25 days long, and they're all linked into start. We're going to make the first one a straight line, the second one a sloping line, and a block. First things first, we need to go to our definitions and settings. We need to go to 2.10, time location definitions. The minimum required is the first and last points for the time location. So in this case, I'm going to make it 0 and the last point is 100. So that location will be numbers and the code will be where you can put in alphabetical codes to identify the location. However, let's go back to the description. Here we can say this is our start and this is our end. And then we can also put in some other point on the location that we want. Let's say, for instance, 50, and we can say that is our halfway point. So now we've got the locations axis defined. Now we go back to the document manager, we open up the time location list, and we need to define. And the way to define it, let's say a straight line, let's say that is at location 50, and let's say sloping line starts at location 40, space dash end at 60, and the block starts at location 70, space hashtag space ends at location 90. Once we've done that, we can now go and see what it looks like on the time location chart. Select 2.2, open that up, and there we have it. There's your location start 0, end 100. There's the halfway mark that we've put in. There's the straight line, all at location 50, with a start date and an end date, but all at the same location. Sloping line starts and ends on a different location and a different time. And then the same with the block, starts at location 70 and ends at location 90, obviously with the end date. Once you've got the time location chart on the screen, there's some options that you can have. We'll briefly look at some of them, and once we've got a real job, we're going to look at more. Something that you might find handy is, as far as the chart is concerned, you can change the calendar to be on the vertical axis by ticking the box, or you can change it back to the horizontal axis. Text size, calendar scale can be changed. Color bars by, at the moment it's colored by float. Can be by area, zone, or user code, which we'll see just now. Okay, what do you want to see on the bar? Bar reference, area name, zone code, or nothing. The width of the bars can be adjusted. You can have fancy bars, as you can see there, or not. And you can have horizontal grid lines on or off, horizontal and vertical lines. And you can have regular location lines on or off as well. As far as the time is concerned, you can change what you see as far as the calendar is concerned. The location you might find handy to say, at the moment you're going from the bottom 0 to the top, or you can invert it, 0 from the top to the 100 at the bottom, depending on your program. And then there's styles that you can change by double clicking on and then change it as required. On the bar chart itself, you can move activity descriptions where you want them, top, middle, left, right, wherever you want them. And then something to note is that the time location chart is a dynamically linked chart to the program, and changes made either in the program or the chart can be reflected. So if changes made in the chart, you can see it in the program, or vice versa. To prove it to you, you can change the duration by going to the end date. Let's look at the sloping line, for instance. It's currently at 25. We can move it to where we want it. So it's a much longer period now. If we go back to the program, we can see that's now 38 days. And we can go and type in the 25 days there, recalculate the job, and then call up the time location chart, and it's back to where it was. Originally, we added the location to show the lines, but when we define it, we also say there's a code available. So what you can do, you can say, let's rather allocate by code. So let's make that code 50, and let's call it P1, and that will be location. Okay, it's okay. And now instead of having 50 in there, we can have P1, which is then the same what you've typed in there for the code, which will then go back to the time location chart. We'll still allocate it there, and because I've added also on the location list, you can also see it there. Now, when you have two, let's make another activity. Let's just make another activity here, and let's say we link it a week after this one started, and let's call it another straight line. Okay, and let's link it to this one here and calculate it. So it's got a bit of float. We also want that at location 50. So there we've typed in location 50, and we go to the location chart, and we see now there's a bit of overlap here with both one on top of the other. So to see that a bit better, what you now can do, if you go back to the location list, instead of having the actual numbered location, you also make that P1. And if you go back to the time location chart, it will now stagger the lines one on top of the other, more or less at P1. Remember, this is just a visual indication, so it's not 100% correct on location in this case when you use the codes. Let's go and look at an example with a bit more activities on it. Let's look at the railway line, yeah. So there we got the normal railway line project with all the activities. We have made some allocations already, as you can see. So we defined our time location definitions there. Some locations have codes allocated to them. Some is used there. You've got a combination of location, distance, as well as code. And as you can see, not everything has been allocated a time location code, because otherwise it gets too busy. So let's go and look at the time location chart at the moment, what it looks like. There's the chart. As we can see, there's our sketch of the railway line, and there's the activities that's been allocated so far. And we can see here the sub-base stopped before the bridge A and carries on after bridge A. So you see bridge A is at 1,400 there. And then you can also see here's a gap here where you have bridge B at 6,800. We need to obviously get the bridge A and B also in this program or on this time location chart. So how do we do that? Okay, so we're going to go back to a normal bar chart. And what we're going to do is we're going to add what is called a tide activity or a hammock activity, so that we can represent the whole of that construction for bridge A as well one line in the time location bar chart. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to go and change the view, and let's close everything up to a level 3. Right. Open up bridge A. Open up the foundations, which is the first activity is going to start, and open up the last activity, which is finishes. And then below finishes, we're going to say control insert, and we're going to create a heading there, and we're going to call that bridge A construction period. We're going to add an activity there. Let's call it build bridge A. And let's just, as a starting point, give it 10 days so that we get an activity. Now, a tide activity is linked from the start of the earliest activity that you want to include in the tide activity's duration, which in this case is PLC2 foundation, activity A150. We use a start to start with a 0 lead, link it to the start of build bridge A. We link the end of the finishes with a 0 end lag to the build bridge activity that we've just done. And then we change the B type by double clicking and selecting the tide type, confirm, and calculate. And now we've got one line activity of 118 days, which represents the bridge A. Let's do the same with bridge B. Open up the earliest activities and open up the latest activities. Right. Control insert. Put a heading in there. Let's make it a level 4. and let's call this bridge B construction period. And below that, we can also then go and say build bridge B. And also give it a 10-day, just so we can link it. And again, look at the earliest activity, which in this case is A960. Link it start to start with a 0 lead. And then look at the latest activity, which is the finishes. And link that end to end, link it end to end with a 0 lag. And then when you finish, change the B type to a tied activity, calculate, and now we've got build bridge B as one single line activity of 140 days. We can also allocate the relevant area codes or zone codes or user codes. In this case, the user code. That bridge structure is already defined, so we just need to allocate it. For that, we go to Document Manager, select all codes. Look, there's build bridge A. Look at the user code. In line with build bridge A, double click. Select bridge as the code, which is the bridge structure. Allocate that, and the same goes for build bridge B. Double click, select it, confirm. Right, then we also need to allocate, open up the time location list. And let's look at the location at bridge A. We're going to say, okay, we're going to allocate it 1400 space hashtag space to 1470, and then the same with build bridge B. This is now actually going to go from 6800 space hashtag space to 6950. Let's go and look what it looks like. Open up the time location chart, and there we've got our two bridges included. Now that we've got a proper time location chart on the screen, let's go and look at the options available again. Click on View, Options. As mentioned, we can change the calendar axis, which we've done here. We're not going to change it here. Text size, calendar scale, that's all been handled. Fancy bars on and off has been handled, but what wasn't handled is this. Color bars by user code at the moment is the selection. You can color bars by float. You can color bars by area code if you've allocated area codes with different colors. Let's leave it at user code. At the moment, you can see on the bars, you've got the activity description as in the program. You can change that to maybe just the area name. Now you can see all the area names there. Or you can say none, and nothing is on the bars. But you'll notice that there are a couple of descriptions still available here. We will come back to that. So let's leave it at activity descriptions. Regular location lines we've switched on. Time, we've got the calendar. Contracts, we've got month lines on. We can switch timelines on and off if we define timelines in our definitions. Location, we can invert the axis. Instead of from 0 to 100 left to right, we can make it from 0 to 100 right to left. We're not going to do that because it won't make sense with the time location above. We can add a location image. In this case, it's already been added. It's a matter of browsing wherever you stored the section of the rail track. You choose the relevant picture you require. Note that you can only bring in bitmaps, JPEGs, and GIFs. Once the picture is selected, open, and it will obviously appear at the bottom. More detail on how to adjust the picture to make sure that it lines up with the location axis will be shown later in this webinar. We can change the styles by double-clicking on and then changing the font make it bold, italic and underline, or click on the foreground to change the color of the font, and the background change the color of the background of the font. We're not going to do that. So we're going to just cancel this. Right, let's look at the tools. So we click on tools. There you've got a calculate button that you can use when you make some changes. You can calculate, filter by. Let's say you want to filter by a user code. You want to filter by the bridge. And on the screen we've now only got the bridge. If we go back to tools, you can hide the rejects. You can only see the bridges, or you can show the rejects. Only the bridges are shown in color, the others are shown in gray. Or we can go and abandon the filter. Production and rates is also available there, but we will do that just now. Where the time location chart also comes in handy is to identify a risk, specifically a rain or weather delayed risk. So what we've done, we have added a rain season period in our definitions. So we went to definitions, we added the rain season, when does it start, when does it end, and now we can also display that on the time location chart. So if we go back to the chart, we open that up, we go to our view, our options, and the time axis, and we now say also show the timelines. And let's move this slightly so you can see. So you can see clearly what activities will be at risk during the rain season. Let's now look at the items that we see here. You'll notice that the strip topsoil on this side has got a chainage included, which is included in the activity description. However, because this is a shorter line, we've only have strip topsoil in here, and here the full description for the drainage and a chainage would not have been fit in, so we've actually asked the computer to leave it out. So how did we do that? So we went back to the time location list, and let's just filter out only the things that's got time location allocated. So go to the location code, do a filter first for blanks, and then invert the filter, and now on the screen we've only got things that's got time location numbers or codes allocated. But we also have the column location text. Once you've filtered the location, we can now look at the location text, and let's first look at this one here. There we've got a long description, strip topsoil, chainage 147 to 2000. But that won't fit on that short line that we saw in the bar in the time location chart. So we're going to just make a smaller description, just call it strip topsoil. If we don't want to see a description, like in this case, the drainage, chainage 147 to 2000 would also not fit on the short bar that we've seen on the time location chart. So we put in a hyphen, and that tells the computer not to display the activity description. What we've done here is, although there's two bars, one following the other of 10 days and 5 days, we only want to see one description from chainage 0 to chainage 2000. So we put in the location text, ballast chainage 0 to 2000, and we put in a hyphen so that we don't display that description on the bars as well. And here we also put in a hyphen not to display the ballast pass bridge 6800's description. So let's see what it looks like. So we go back here, time location chart, and there we can see. So there is the location text only. There is no description because we put in a hyphen. Okay, and then we can also then see the ballast that went through. Now let's look at production rates. When you've got a time location chart on the screen, you can click on Tools, and you'll see there's a item called Production Rates. When you click on that, you'll see there's a dialog box that opens up, which has got 3 codes of production in there. The production code entry is used to calculate an activity's duration, and this is usually suited for projects that involve distance, for example this rail track project, where the location is on the horizontal axis. One of three production codes, A, B or C, can be allocated to activities, and when the production rate for the code is changed, the program recalculates and reflects the alteration. So if we go and change code A, let's say to 20, okay, and we calculate, we will see that there's a change there. Let's make a big change. Let's make it 10. So they're working very slow today. Let's calculate that, and you can see the change has been made. Okay, let's change it back to 5 or 15 a day. Calculate, and once you're happy with what you see on the screen, you can say accept, and that will then be stored. So how does this work? Let's close this. Let's open back our time location list, but this time we've added the column cycle ID. Again, let's go and filter out only the time locations, so filter for the blanks and invert the filter, and here we can see the cycle ID. And as you can see, it's related to the sloping bars, more suited for the sloping bars, and next to each sloping bar that you want to change or you want to affect, you put in A. Let us now go and see how this works. As mentioned, on the location chart options, you will enter the relevant production output per day. You have the option to enter 3 production rates for A, B, and C if required. On the time location list, you will then add the column cycle ID and expression. In this column, next to each of the sloping line type activities, you will add the required production code. The number entered for code A represents the linear production per day, in this case 15 meters per day. Based on a location input, the computer will work out the distance for the activity and divide that by the production entered. So for this example, the distance is 1,500 meters divided by 15 meters per day will equal a duration of 100 days. The number entered for code B represents the linear production per day of 70 meters a day. So for location 0 to 1,400, it equals 1,400 meters divided by the 70 meters per day, and that will equal a duration of 20 days. If we now go and change the production code to 55 meters per day, the result is 25.454 days. As Canny only works in full days and not in portions of days, the duration is rounded using the 4-5 rule. Now let us look at the cycle times menu. In a high-rise construction, the cycle time refers to the duration required to have sufficient construction done. That includes formwork, setup, reinforcing, concrete pouring, etc. on a floor before commencing similar work on the next floor. One of 3 cycle codes is available, X, Y, and Z, and can be allocated to activities. Cycle time between 2 activities is actually the time between their start dates. That is therefore the start lead in a start-to-start link. Let's look at a practical example of how cycle times are used. So let's just call up the menu, tools, cycle times, and there we see the cycle times. And at the moment the X value is 8, meaning every 8th day a new floor starts. So for this construct T12, the cycle time Y means that every 8 days the service's first fix starts. Okay. Currently the project ends first week in October. So if we're going to change there the cycle time, we say we're going to get more material on site so that we can reduce the cycle time for the pours. We can change the 8 to 5. We can recalculate, and that will win us about a week, week and a half. If we also reduce the start time of the first fix services, instead of cycle time of every 8 days, we start every 6 days, and we calculate that, we can see a reduction of nearly 2 months. So now one can decide if it's worthwhile to spend the extra money and get the project handed over nearly 2 months before the time. Let's just change it back. Right, and let's go and see how it works. Let's close this. We go back. This time we now look at the time location list. But this time we also, for explanation, has added the successor columns. So basically this is what the column layout looks like. We've added successor activity number, the start lead, and the end lag. Right, let's do the same as we did before. Filter out all the blanks, invert the filter, and there we have it. So let's scroll down until we see the cycles. And there we start here with construct mezzanine level 1. We've got a x plus 5. Now remember, the x value is 8, so 8 plus 5. Then we add a x plus 4. Then we add a x plus 3. Then we add a x plus 2, x plus 1. So why did we add this additional mathematical entries? Because from day 1, they're not going to work on an 8-day cycle. There's a learning curve that's going to happen. And every next floor, they will work a day less until they get into the final cycle of 8 days a week. So now you can see 8 plus 5 is 13, 8 plus 4 is 12, and so it goes until x equals 8. Okay. So if you now go back here and we say, look at the cycle chart, tools, cycle times, and we change that to 5, and we accept that, and we go back and activate that, we can now see 5 plus 5 is 10 until the x only is 5. After you've adjusted the time location on the screen as required, this time location chart can then be printed. To print the time location report, in the program that you're in, go to Report Manager, select New Report, select Time Location, and select Time Location Report. Once it's in the Report Manager, select Customize, and then go to the Time Location tab. In the Time Location tab, you'll see it's similar than the options available on the time location chart on screen. You can also color the bars by different float user code. You can change the bar reference by activity description, what a description you want. You can change the width, regular locations, etc. You can also clip a range. We'll show you this now, how that is done. You can import the main location image, which is the one displayed at the bottom, in this case on the horizontal axis, and you can image over the graph, which will be displayed on the top. We'll see a sample of that just now. Say OK, and let's preview that report. Take note that the adjustments you made to the activity descriptions in the location text column will also display on the printout. This includes the shortened text description typed in the location text column, as well as hidden text that were set by typing in a hyphen in the location text column. Any reallocation of bar descriptions made in the time location chart will also be reflected in the printout. Let us now return to the Report Manager and look at the time location report with the clip section of the location axis. We've already done it for you, so let's go and customize that report and see what was done. Click on time location, and in the clip range we said only display the portion from location 5000 to location 8000, and then obviously we had to adjust our drawing accordingly and cut the display that we want to see on the drawing to also include only the range selected, which in this case is from 5000 to 8000. Let's say OK, And let's preview what that looks like. And now you can see only a portion of the total project clipped to 5,000 and 8,000 distance. Using activity codes allocated to the activities, you can also filter out only certain trades or areas that you want to see. Let's see how that was done. Here we went and made a report for the subbase only. We customize it. We did our normal time location. We color bars by user code because we're going to filter out by user code. Then we went to the selection, and in the selection we said take the entire program, filter it by user code, and in the drop down menu we scroll down until we see sub for subbase, drag it over the green arrow, confirm, and it appears there. Say OK, and it's now activity showing user code, and let's see what that looks like. If we preview, there is where we have the subbase only time location chart. You notice that you can add additional picture on the time location report. Let's see how that is done. For this, we're going to use the balance cantilever bridge and select that. Go to the report manager where the report's already been set up. Time location report with the section and the plan. Customize it. Go to the time location tab. And as you can see, the main location that shows below the location line has been imported as a bridge section, and then the image that shows on top of the time location behind the time location bars is imported under the second option there for the image over graph. So let's go and see what it looks like. Okay, let's preview, and there we can see the report. You now want to look at what happens when a program that's got a time location chart in has got progress. So let's select the railway line, update 1. Here we've done the update. Here's the progress bar chart that show you the base bars in the background, and as we can see, program's currently 8 days late. Let's go and look at the time location chart. Select that, open it up. There we see the timeline, but our last setting was the user code, show bars by user code. So let's change the options and then look at color bars by float. And as we can see, we've got certain time location items that shows in purple, which is indication it's an overrun or negative float. But you'll see there's no option to show the base programs in the background anywhere on the selection list. Okay, reasons for that is this document is a document that can be edited. You can change start dates and the finish dates of the remaining duration of time location items. So the base bar showing will just make it more complicated on this document. However, you can print it. So let's see a printout. So let's go to Report Manager, customize it, look at progress, choose the option to show base and current program, say OK, and let's preview that. And there we can see. But as you can see, it gets very busy. But it is possible. Next, we'll look at some methods to adjust the picture used on the time location chart or report to suit the location access. When adding a picture to a time location chart or a time location report, you might find that the picture is too big to fit on either the report or the screen, and this picture needs to be adjusted. We've created a simple sample to show you how the picture can be adjusted. So let's show you what the picture looks like before we made adjustments. So there's the simple sample time location list. We've got one item. It's a building, multi-story building with shaft construction from base to roof. That's the only item we have. Let's go and look at time location chart. And once we import the big picture, as you saw before, we get a warning that the image ratio should rather be 1:3, i.e. very tall. Then you get asked, do you want to disable the image for this orientation? And we say no. And that is what happens when you've got a very big picture. So one needs to cut this picture to suit so you can see a bit more of the bar chart and less of the picture. What needs to be done is to cut or edit the picture to make it narrower, but still show a representation of the section of the building. You can use picture editor software like Snagit or some of the free graphics editor available like Windows Paint, Inkscape or GIMP. We'll cut out vertical strips to have a narrower picture for the time location chart, which will then allow you to see more of the time location bars, but still have a picture that relates to the location of these bars. Let's go and look at the result after sections of the picture's width has been cut to suit. So let's select that one, where sample where we've done it. Open up the time location chart. And there we can see more of the bar chart and we can see the picture. What we've noticed here, although we've cut sections out of the width, the height might still be a problem because you might have a border around the picture that you used. And you've got two choices. You can either include the border in your time location scale. So let's see how that was done. There's the basement, there's the lift motor room, but because we've got a border, the border is now at -4.5 is the starting point, and also including the border, the end point of the time location scale is going to go to 37. So let's go and look at it again. Time location chart, and now we can see there's our lift motor room, and there's the including the border of 37. So we went from -4.5 including the border to -37. Or we can use the graphics editor software to cut out the borders and minimize the height of the drawing. So let's see how that would look after we've done it. Select that one, open the chart, and now we can see the height of the borders been chopped down just to show the edges of the drawing. Okay, and the scale adjusts accordingly. So let's look at the final product. Time location chart, and there we've got the final product. You can also create a drawing inside Excel if you need to. The way to do it is obviously first look at your scale. So look at the row heights. What we've done here, we said the height between floors are 3 meters. So we use the row height of 30, and then obviously pro rata where the heights are more than 3 meters for each, like the basement and the restaurant. Once we've got the height set up, we just go to the relevant cells, we right click, we format, and we put in borders as required, we put in filling as required. We can also say, let's adjust what we've got inside the cell, for instance, stair landings, let's make it more in the middle, right? And what we've also done is, if the grid line was on, we also switch it off. Okay, once you've got the final product, you just highlight the Excel picture, right click, copy, open up Paint, go edit, paste, adjust the paint and cut the edges as required, and then it's a matter of save as, and you can save it either as a bitmap or a JPEG, which you can then import into your time location charts and time location reports. As we came to the end of the webinar, we want to remind you of the Help Center menu in the software. More information, including any previous webinars you might have missed, can be accessed through the Help Center menu in the software. By selecting the Help Center menu, you'll be redirected to the RIB support portal, and once there, choose the RIB Candy option to open the RIB Candy support website. The RIB Candy support website serves two main functions. One, access the knowledge base where you can search for detailed guidance on Candy software features and functions. And two, to submit a support case. If you encounter a software error, can't find the information you need, or wish to suggest a new feature, click on the Contact Support link under the Get Support title on any product page to submit a case. This alerts the support team, ensuring a prompt and relevant response. Note, registration on the support portal is not required to access the knowledge base or to submit a case. However, to track the progress of your cases or retrieve responses to previous queries, you may register directly on the website. Once logged in, you can monitor your submissions under the My Case section. As a reminder, we offer online as well as in-person training courses from basic to advanced. We also offer consulting on specific functionality and features within Candy to get your team equipped to get the best out of Candy. We host in-person and virtual seminars focused on various topics to assist in using Candy to its fullest potential. Regular webinars on various topics are also scheduled. Product advice and telephonic supports are also available. Please contact your local RIB Candy offices for more information. Keep in touch with our latest news, announcements, and upcoming events by following us on our social pages. Search for RIB Software on Facebook and LinkedIn, or scan the relevant QR code currently available on the screen to stay connected. We hope you enjoyed this webinar and found it insightful. Should you require any further information, kindly contact your local RIB Candy offices. Thank you for attending and enjoy your day.